Welcome to the Inner Fire Book Club. We are reviewing our first book, Mindset, the New Psychology of Success, written by Carol S. Dweck. I don't know about you guys, but I have notes and highlights all over my Kindle version of this book. I found it super accessible. I loved all of the stories that Dr. Dweck included. It made it really applicable and really easy to understand all of the concepts that she was putting forth in the book about what it means to live with a fixed mindset and what it means to live with a growth mindset. To support your journey of self-care and empowerment, I hope you'll join me here. Subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to get notified when I release a new video each Thursday. I love the way Dr. Dweck set up this book. There are 8 chapters, and I'm going to walk you through what those chapters are right now. In the first chapter, she talks about the mindsets themselves. In the second chapter, she goes inside the mindset. So what do these look like when they start to manifest, when they're at play? In the third chapter, she talks about the truth about ability and what's actually possible for us. The fourth chapter, she talks about these mindsets in the sports arena. The fifth chapter is about looking at the fixed and growth mindsets in business, in organizations. The sixth chapter is about these mindsets and how they function in relationships. The seventh has to do with the mindsets and raising children for parents, for teachers, for coaches. And the 8th chapter really goes into how we can shift or change or transform our mindsets and how they work for us. At the end of each chapter, she then gives you some food for thought, some exercises, some questions to noodle on and start applying in your own life in real-time scenarios. So it's a really effective, almost manual that you can use to examine the mindsets, look at them in these different arenas, sports, business, relationships, and then take some of the questions, take some of the exercises, and immediately start applying them. Let's start at the beginning. What is a fixed mindset? What is a growth mindset? And why should we care in the first place? So to be clear, a fixed mindset is one where we believe that we are born with natural ability and there is nothing we can do to change it. In other words, you are born with a set of qualities, characteristics, a certain knowledge, skill set that is permanent, and no matter how hard you try, there's nothing you can do to get better or improve. In other words, you are born with natural gifts, talents, and abilities. The growth mindset is believing that we all have the capacity to grow and develop our skills, to improve, that we can develop our abilities over time. Now, why should we care about this? Well, Carol S. Dweck puts the book in a context in which we can see that having a fixed or growth mindset will have direct impacts on how you work, whether you're running a business, starting your own business, working with other people, if you are interested or involved in sports in any way. If you're a parent, as a new parent, I found this section of the book really, really interesting to read. It also gave me a lot of time to reflect on how I grew up and the types of feedback that I received as a child and how that created the mindset that I find myself in today. It talks about relationships, both romantic partnerships as well as friendships. So these mindsets have direct links to how we live our everyday life, and getting clear on which mindset is operating for you at any given time is really important. I have 5 main takeaways from this book that I want to share with you, and I would love to know what your takeaways were from the book, so be sure to leave your reflections in the comments below. Takeaway number 1, All of us have both mindsets. All of us have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. It's true, we don't just exist in one mindset. So even though I know that for myself, I operate more with a fixed mindset that gets triggered by certain things, and I'll talk about that a little later. I also know that I do possess moments where my growth mindset emerges, where I do believe that I'm capable of developing my abilities. So that's takeaway number one. We're not one or the other, we're actually both. Takeaway number two, you can shift your mindset. So we are not stuck in one or the other. And just so you all know, in case you didn't get the opportunity to read the book, we want to work toward developing a growth mindset. We want to work toward a growth mindset to move past our edges, to get out of our comfort zone, to stretch ourselves and actually achieve more, to be able to express ourselves in a myriad of ways. And so if you're feeling like I feel, as though the fixed mindset is the more dominant mindset you're working with, know that you can shift this. And she provides tools and resources, exercises that you can put into practice to start shifting yourself from fixed mindset to growth mindset. My third key takeaway is that the fixed mindset is more about me. It's I-centric. It's about what's happening to me, how am I successful, how have I improved. It's very much about my experience, what's happening that's negative for me, what's happening that's positive for me. And what's interesting is that when we look at the what's happening that's negative for me in the fixed mindset, it's as a result of what other people have done. There's kind of this idea that there's no personal responsibility. When we look at the positive, what's happening that's positive for me from a fixed mindset framework, it's all about all the things that I've done. There's no concept there was anybody else or anything else involved in the manifestation of that achievement or that success. The growth mindset is about we. So it's a me versus we, essentially. In the growth mindset, we recognize that there are a number of people that are involved in the success or the achievement of something happening. And she uses a lot of examples of athletes, particularly solo athletes who, for example, might be playing tennis on the tennis courts. And how they not only acknowledge that they've trained and worked really hard, so they've grown their abilities over time through commitment and dedication and hard work, but they were also surrounded by a team of people that enabled that success to happen. She also talks about this idea of we in relation to organizational success. She uses a number of examples, including IBM, including Xerox, to demonstrate how having a growth mindset and recognizing the contributions of everybody within the company contributed to these organizations making turnarounds from completely, utterly failing organizations to ones that actually started thriving again. The fourth key takeaway from this book: praise the effort, not the person. This is such an interesting concept for me to noodle on. And this is where I'm saying that a lot of reflection into my past started happening. And as a new parent, I started thinking a lot about the language I want to use with my child as I am raising him. So the idea here is that oftentimes we will heap praise on the person for the achievement. So for example, you got a 90% on an exam. You're so smart. You're so talented. You're smarter than everybody else in your class. So these are just examples of praise that we might give somebody to show that we're proud of them. by the way, there's nothing wrong with being proud of somebody, but how we do the praise should be different in order to facilitate a growth mindset. So instead of saying, "You're so smart," what you would say is you want to praise the effort instead. So you might say something like, "You worked so hard to achieve that success," or "Tell me more about the techniques you used to study for that exam." So we want to emphasize the process and the effort that went into achieving that certain thing versus focusing it on the person. Now, what happens if a lot of effort was put into something, but the outcome wasn't necessarily what was desired? So let's say I've studied really hard for an exam and the outcome was that I got a C minus. What we would do in that case is recognize the effort. Wow, Heather, you studied really hard for that exam. It looks like certain things weren't connecting. What are some strategies or techniques we might use to prepare you in the future? Or did something on the test not make sense? So we don't criticize the person for not achieving the desired result. Instead, we acknowledge the effort that was put in and we say, okay, how do we try harder next time? What I love about this idea about praising the effort and process versus praising the person is that in some ways it depersonalizes it. Carol S. Dweck talks a lot about how when we put the praise on the person, it creates an incredible amount of pressure. That heightened amount of pressure can push people into a fixed mindset, because if I'm recognized for being smart, Heather, you're so smart, you got a 90% on that exam, what happens if I don't get a 90% the next time? Then I'm not smart. And then that's a story that I can begin to adopt and ingest and start putting out there to everything else that I am doing. So if I start, not making 90% on the exams, or I don't win the game, or I don't achieve the goal I set out for myself, and the critique has always been, "Oh, you're so smart, you're so talented, you're amazing at that, you have natural ability here." When it doesn't work out, I feel like something's wrong with me. And this was a big aha moment for me. Parents want to do their best and they want to praise their kids, right? I'm sure some of you can relate to this. But I realized that the way in which I was recognized growing up actually facilitated a fixed mindset. And so as a result of that, I became so afraid of messing up, of not getting it right, of not achieving, that I didn't push myself to go beyond my comfort zone. I stayed where I knew where I was smart, talented, had natural ability. And now, at the age of 40, I'm realizing that it's impacting how I go about trying new things, or how I'm committing myself to the process of doing new things. The great thing about this is, and I've already said this, but we can change our mindset. It takes dedication and work, but we can actually do it. And as I'm working on changing my mindset, noticing and paying attention to my mindset, I'm also paying attention to how I want to parent my child as he grows up, and becoming really aware of the language that I'm using. Even now, he's just a toddler, but even now, how am I languaging to him about things that he's making progress on as he grows up? The fifth big takeaway for me was understanding why the fixed mindset exists in the first place. So this takeaway is the fixed mindset is developed to keep us safe. So it's actually not a bad thing per se. And neither of these mindsets are good or bad or right or wrong. They simply are. And again, remember, all of us have both of them operating within us. But the fixed mindset is created to protect us, to shield us, to keep us safe from getting hurt, getting harmed, getting criticized, getting judged. And so when we see the fixed mindset coming into play, it should be a sign to ourselves that something is getting triggered, that we're getting pushed past our comfort zone, that we're resisting or in this place of resistance because we might be being asked to do something that's a little bit more, that's asking us to grow our abilities, that's asking us to change our approach. And so it's really important to recognize that the fixed mindset exists for a reason, but that we also have the ability to give our fixed mindset a break. And Dr. Dweck talks about this, how when we recognize that the fixed mindset is kind of coming up and she's emerging and kind of wants to come out and protect us. And by the way that the fixed mindset does that is through resistance, getting angry, getting defiant, giving up. There's a myriad of ways that the fixed mindset can show up. But she talks about how we can actually have a conversation with that fixed mindset and say, you know what, it's okay. I've got this. And then we actually trigger the growth mindset to step forward instead. At the end of the book, chapter 8 is my favorite chapter because this is where Dr. Dweck gives us a roadmap for transforming our mindsets. And she gives us 4 concrete steps to follow to begin to shift from a fixed to a growth mindset. The first step in this roadmap is to acknowledge when the fixed mindset is emerging. The second step is to become aware of the triggers. So what are the things that really ignite your fixed mindset to show up? Is it something somebody says? Is it a situation? And beginning to notice those habits and patterns that bring the fixed mindset to the forefront, that start getting you into those states of resistance, denial. I can't do this. It's not possible. I'm not comfortable with that. The third step in this roadmap is to give your fixed mindset a name or a persona. When the fixed mindset comes forward, it's actually as though part of ourselves, a persona, is stepping forward to keep us safe. Now, I haven't come up with a name for my fixed mindset yet. I'm still working on it. But I do know that she has particular characteristics. She's defensive. She's unwilling to try new things. She gets very stuck in the way she's doing things. And so I'm starting to tune into, okay, what makes this persona tick and what triggers her to start to take over? The fourth step kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, in that, we've named this persona, we kind of understand how she or he operates, and now we get to educate that fixed mindset persona. So we actually get to bring that person along with us and say, hey, you know what? It's okay. I've got this. You can take a little break. You can rest. I'm okay. I'm safe. And I want to give this new thing a go. I want to try this out. I want to see how it'll work if I apply myself. So we can work with the fixed mindset, give her a break by acknowledging that she exists, and then just allowing her to know that we're just going to try something different today, and we're going to see how it goes. So that's the roadmap, and I've been noticing the more I put this roadmap into practice, the more I am feeling a growth mindset begin to emerge. When I receive feedback on things that I'm doing, I'm not reacting defensively. I'm not trying to explain myself and defend myself. Instead, I am receiving that feedback and understanding that these are things that can help me improve. So know that there is a method that we can put into practice every day to start shifting from a fixed to a growth mindset. I would love to get a conversation going on this. What are your thoughts regarding the fixed versus growth mindset? Do you think you have one that's more dominant than the other? Did you read the book? What are your thoughts? Share your reflections with us down below. I hope you enjoyed this insight into Dr. Carol S. Dweck's book, Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And I hope you enjoy your journey as you cultivate your growth mindset. I know that I'm enjoying it. It's definitely a process of self-exploration and self-excavation. We have another book to read over the next 6 weeks, and that book is Wild Creative, written by Tammy Lynn Kent. I have been inspired by her work. I've read another book of hers, Wild Feminine, so I'm super excited to dive into this content. We'll be reviewing Wild Creative in 6 weeks. Be sure to join us here. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to get notified when I release a new video each Thursday. Stay ignited out there. I'll see you soon.